It may not exist in his own dimension, but it's time to talk about Dormammu. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well, and welcome to this, a belated video. We've just had so much going on. We had the charity event. I have been quite busy at work. Quinn's been doing Quinn things. So we have eventually got round to the second half of our, let's say, magic or magicians versus off. We did the convocation a couple of weeks ago. And he's just spoiled it now, but again, joined by the one, the only, Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how you doing,
You
sir?
literally said that I was busy doing
I
me
know,
things.
but
that
I
kind of gives
hadn't-
away that I'm in the video.
I hadn't swapped over the thing or anything like that, so...
Yeah, but also, like, I feel like people realise that I'm typically
I think
in these sorts of
I
videos
don't think
now.
anyone
Like,
is. Nobody's surprised by the fact that you're here. Quinn, how you doing? It's been a minute since we've done a video. You've been building yourself up to this one, haven't you? Because I think as we put in our he's our least favourite 8 threat in the game. But I do think there's as more and more characters get released, the potential for him to be better by being able to turn on other characters is maybe greater. But what you been up to? How's things?
I've been playing Marvel Champions. That's the thing I've been
I've
doing.
been playing a lot on Marvel Champions. Maybe we'll do a video, Quinn, in the next week or so.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
On Marvel Champions. And guys, off-piste, but go check it out on the Discord. There is now a Marvel Champions section on there. If you don't know what we're talking about, head over to that, take a look. It's a really, really cool card game that we've been, getting our asses handed to us on, Quinn, I think is a fair way of saying it. But we're not
beat Ronan.
we did beat Ronan, yes. But we're not.
I mean, I would also like say that I'd done some writing, but I just fucking haven't.
No, you haven't. So we're not here to talk about Marvel Champions, however. We are here to talk about Big Daddy D himself, Dormammu. And usually me and Quinn will put together 2 rosters. One of them is a 3-box challenge. One of them is spend as much money as you want. But we felt like Dormammu was so unique and really could be taken with so many different characters because of the way his leadership works, that we thought we will come up with a roster at the end together, but we thought rather than talking about why individual characters are better or individual things are better, talk about the certain traits of certain characters that maybe Dormammu can then turn on and sort of lend themselves to. I suppose really is one of the things is getting the Asgardian trait every single turn in the power phase. So let's jump in then, Quinn, and take a look at Dormammu himself, because he's a bit of a beast. He's got a lot going on his card, but
He's definitely a character that exists.
He's a character that exists, but he comes on a large base and he has a medium move, right? So off the bat, he's got some decent movement. He can get around the board.
He's as fast as a man on a motorbike.
he's as fast as a man on a motorbike. He's actually not as fast because he doesn't have a long move, but there we go. 10 stamina on his front, 12 stamina on his back. Obviously, as we mentioned, medium move. He is size 5, and that is both good because there are a lot of characters that have been errated to prevent the throw or prevent the pushes, but in particular throws of Dormammu. But it's also bad because there are still quite a lot of characters in the game that can throw him, or maybe at least 4 or 5. One of them characters is not arguably the best 8 threat in the game, but the best 8 threat in the game, which is Thanos with a reality and space gem. And on his builder, he can throw Dormammu. So we need to be aware. We need to be wary of that. He's obviously 8 threat, and then he is 4/4/5 for his defensive abilities. So Quinn, off the bat for 8 threat, 10 stamina, 22 stamina in total, feels pretty good. He's obviously got higher defensive abilities than most in the game, being 4/4/5. I don't think there's anybody in the game who is who is that
That
high.
was literally a question in the quiz, wasn't it?
I think it may have been, yeah. It may have been a question in the quiz. But let's go through his some of the things he's got. So the first thing is his builder, which I believe was another question in the game as well, which isn't really a builder. He's relying on saps. So range 4, 6 dice energy. It doesn't really matter that it's energy. It's quite nice. But he gains power equal to the number of wilds rolls as long as your opponent has the power to sap from them. So if you're attacking somebody with no power, he isn't going to gain any power whatsoever. And then he's got his second ability, or his second attack, which is the Incantation of Obliteration. Costs 5 power, 8 dice, range 3. But then it has this Dark Miasma, which is quite unique in the fact that it can be triggered on every single attack that you do. But it needs a wild, a hit, a block, and a failure, which off 8 dice is quite hard. You've got three sides of the dice there that you need, with only 1 chance of getting them on each dice. 1 out of 8 on each dice. But he gets to then do it again, and he keeps getting to do it again and again and again, as long as he keeps triggering that. But the key thing is that it has to be another character within range 2, and it can't have already been targeted. So it's not infinite, is it? It will stop at some point because...
Yeah, I mean, if your opponent daisy chains their entire 7-wide Guardians team, sure, he can get 8 attacks. In reality, he'll be lucky to get 2.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems with this attack is that
got too many triggers.
It needs to lose one of those triggers. I feel like if it lost the block, and I'd even take losing the block and upping it to 6 power. Maybe. I think it would be easier. But
are you sure with Dormammu's power economy?
Well, there is that. Let's leave the leadership for a moment, Quinn, because I think that's going to play into a lot of the other things that we speak about around other characters, what sorts of characters we want to take in there. But we mentioned he's quite mobile. Well, he also has not of this dimension. So 3 power, place it within 2, once per turn. It's a hop on Toad, but a large base makes quite a big difference. So even though it's only a range 2, he actually can get around the board quite a lot with this one. Feel the Power of Darkness. So it's a reactive superpower, cost 2. After an attack targeting this character is resolved, it may use this superpower. The attacking character is pushed away from this character short and gains the Hex special condition. If the attacking character already has the Hex special condition, it gains the Incinerate. I quite like this, Quinn, on Dormammu. I think it's a nice way of stopping him from being double tapped. And Hex is nice. Incinerate is nice as well. So dishing out a couple of good things there. But again, it comes back to that power economy, doesn't it? So yeah, and then he has the innate ability, Master of the Realm of Darkness. And this is where it gets quite wordy, isn't it, in terms of what we've got. But we'll go through it. So when this character suffers damage from an enemy effect, it gains 1 power instead of power equal to the damage suffered. So even though he doesn't have a builder, he also doesn't do the normal thing of gets knocked down and then comes back up again fully powered and just starts firing out dark miasmas here, there, and everywhere. When another allied character is damaged by an enemy effect or by Flames of Faultine, and we'll come back onto that in a second, this character gains 1 power. You guys have seen us play Ghost Rider. It's the same as the ability that he has, right? Apart from it's an enemy effect. So throws, any sort of triggers from, parting shot, or the one that Bullseye does, I never miss, any of those.
Or Death Factor from Omega Red.
Or Death Factor from Omega Red. Which, so, your team takes damage, he basically gains power. It doesn't stop them from gaining power as well. And then additionally, when calculating successes or failure of this character's attacks, this character adds the number of failures in both attack and defense rolls to its total successes. So this is very similar to Magic's, isn't it? Her spender that she's got.
Yeah.
And then lastly, he's got flight. Not that you need it at size 5. I gather there's some tactics cards now, aren't they? That and
Storm's
superpowers.
AoE will do extra damage to him. There you go.
There we go. And then he's immune to bleed, incinerate, and stagger, but not hex. Which again, I always
feels
found
weird,
interesting,
especially considering Voodoo is immune.
So Quinn, let's go on to the sort of crux of this thing, because it's going to sort of really trickle down into the types of characters that we want to take with us, and that is the Flames of the Faltine, which is the Affiliation Dark Dimension. So first of all, let's read through this and then just sort of explain why we've done this video in a slightly different way. So if Dormammu is included in a squad, that squad is affiliated with Dark Dimension and must use this leadership ability. So you can't make Dormammu an Avenger. That's just not gonna. He doesn't work for anybody else, Quinn, does he? He's his own boss.
And then just Dormammu stomps out of the ether.
So that's the key thing, is that, and that's why we changed the sort of style of this video, because there are no affiliated characters for the Dark Dimension other than Dormammu. It means that you can pick any characters, and you don't have to worry about the 51 or the 50+%, because all you need is Dormammu, and then anything else can make up the rest of your squad. So this character, and each character you control, gains 1 additional power during the power phase. During the power phase, if another allied character has 6 or more power, it suffers 1 damage. Now, that during the power phase thing is always being countered. So
it's continually checked.
Yeah, so continually checked right up until the point of the next round starts, or the actual activation round starts. So if you're holding a cube, for example, even though a cube is a neutral effect, it would still trigger this leadership ability, basically. So if you've got 6 or more power during the phase for other allied characters, not for Dormammu himself, they would suffer 1 damage, but that would also then trigger Master of the Realm of Darkness, which means that he would gain an extra power as well. Power management, Quinn, is really, really important with Dark Dimension, isn't it? And we've seen it before, haven't we, when we've played and played around and stuff. It's, holding a cube and you knowing that you can leave your opponent on 4 power and they're going to take a damage, or even 3 power, and they're going to take 2 damage, 1 from the cube and 1 from Flames of the Faltine, means that you can have a situation where, because it's the power phase, you can basically daze a character and not get to make any activations with them that round whatsoever. Which is,
it's also really nice when you do that accidentally, and you're like, for a moment you're like, oh no, I didn't kill that character, and then you're like, oh no, I did, I just didn't do it now. Bit of an issue, isn't it?
It hurts. It really does hurt. So power management is really, really important, and that's why I think when one of the traits that you want, or one of the things that you want with characters, is that you want characters who have that potential to be able to dump power as and when needed, whether it be through tactics cards or typically superpowers. So Quinn, now we know everything about Dormammu and the Dark Dimension affiliation. Let's have a quick look at the 2 actual Dark Dimension tactics cards, but we're going to throw in a third one there that I think is an absolute staple, and is an absolute must, I think, to take on Dormammu, at least in most situations. Let's go look at the first one, Dark Empowerment. So Dark Dimension, it's an active card. During a character's activation, it may suffer 1 damage to play this card. Choose another character within range 3 of the active character. Effect of the next attack made this turn by the active character cannot cause it to gain power. The chosen character gains power equal to the damage dealt by the attack. So you could take a Rocket Raccoon, do a Hadron Enforcer, which normally wouldn't generate power, right? It's a spender. And then if it deals 4 damage, you would then be able to give any other character within range 3 4 power. Typically Dormammu, right? This card was designed as Dormammu being the benefactor of it.
Yeah.
You spoke about power economy. Does this help in any way? Is it worth a spot?
Right, so in terms of power economy, sure, it does a thing. However, in terms of the overall economy of the game, you're using a tactics card to get effectively 1 builder out of an attack. That doesn't feel like the greatest use of a resource that is limited to 5 in your hand per game.
I agree wholeheartedly. And the fact that it's... The thing about tactics cards is I like tactics cards for the most part, lovable misfits aside, but I like tactics cards, and I think most people, and if you look at competitive players, they like tactics cards where you spend X or do X and get Y, right?
You want consistent
they're fixed,
effects.
they're consistent. You could do this and whiff. And I think
you could do a 9 dice excessive violence with Bob. And as we all know, 9 dice is the worst number of dice in the game, as we've established previously.
Yep.
And you get nothing, and you have wasted a tactics card slot, and also 2 threat taking Bob because he's. Bleh.
Yeah, it's not worth it, is it? So, yeah, Dark Empowerment for me, Quinn. I think it seems like you're on the same sort of trail of thought. It's just not worth it, and it's a real shame because one of only 2 tactics cards, and maybe that's one of the other reasons why this affiliation in particular does suffer or has suffered a little bit. Let's take a look then at his second card, so Dark Restoration, and this gets quite a bit better, Quinn, to say the least. So, Dark Restoration, it's reactive, and you play it during the cleanup phase. So, Dormammu may spend 6 power to play this card. Place an allied character of threat value 3, and that 3 will become really important when we start talking about other characters that we want to bring along with us. Or less, so you can put a 2 threat in there, or even a 1 threat Aunt May whenever she's released, that has been KO'd in this game within range 2 of Dormammu. The character is healthy, has no damage, no conditions or effects. So basically, you daze my lizard, or you KO my lizard, I can spend 6 power and bring lizard back, and bring him back within range 2 of me, fully healthy as if it was another character, just any other character, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
6 power's a lot.
Especially on Dormammu.
But, I think by this point, you're probably, it's got to be at least going into round 3, right? So a character can't be KO'd until round 2. So it'll be bringing them back for round 3.
Assume that Dormammu has generated some power from the 3 threat being punched in the face and dying, right?
At least 2, right? Even if he was one shot twice.
Well, at least 3, because if they're flipping round 1, then next round they're going to be on 6 power and therefore take damage, and that'd give him 1. Then they get 1 shot again.
And he gets his innate, 2 power, 2 power per turn as well. Yeah. So, I think although 6 seems like a lot, by the time, this isn't a turn 1 play, is it? You're not having to try and find 6 power turn 1. So I think that's fine. And I think, Quinn, is there a situation where you don't take this card in your roster? Maybe in your squad?
No, I don't think there is. In your squad, I think there is, and it is very heavily based on the number of 3 threats you have, what those 3 threats are, and how killy you think your opponent's going to be.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I suppose coming up against the Web Warriors or a Wakanda, you're probably...
not the way I play Wakanda. I like stabbing.
And we have to remember as well, Quinn, isn't it? It's any KO'd character. So if you had and I'm just sort of throwing it out there, but Ghost Rider, for example, and Ghost Rider used Deal with the Devil, and you KO'd a 3 threat character to come back into, Dormammu could then use this card to be able to bring that other character back. Well, if there's room for a 5-threat character in Dark Dimension,
I mean, that combination
is
alone
question.
is what 16 threat and 2 tactics cards.
Yeah, but it
seems reasonable.
Throw Mr. Sinister in the mix and clone bank somebody as well.
You learned that worked so well, didn't you, Rick?
Yeah, indeed. Quinn, I said I wanted to throw another card in there because, and both me and you agreed on this, whilst it is not a Dark Dimension card, it's actually a card that Dormammu gets a huge amount of value from.
More than any other character in the game.
More than any other character in the game. And it is Smash. So an early card. I think did this come in the core box, I want to say?
Core set, yeah.
Yeah, so it came in the core box. But I'm not going to read all the card, but basically, if you're within one of a terrain feature that is smaller than you are, so Dormammu is size 5, so anything smaller than you, you spend 2 power, and then you get to add the number of dice equal to the size of the terrain feature. The terrain's destroyed as well, but the kick here, Quinn, is that it's for the rest of your round, isn't it? So for the rest of this round, the ideal situation is you do your Dark Miasma thing and you're adding 4 dice to it. So you go from an 8 dice spender to a 12 dice spender, increasing the chance of hitting those.
And then if you do get the trigger, then it's 12 dice again, and then so on and so forth. Yeah. Also, it's also just decent doing, like, 10 dice builders, right?
Huge, absolutely huge, yeah.
Builders. He's got a builder in the same sense that Elektra has a builder.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say definitely Quinn, Dark Restoration and Smash. Both of them have situations where you maybe don't play them depending on the board setup. If it's all size 2s and maybe one size 3, it might not be worth it because I don't feel like 2 power for 2 dice is great. But I think in most situations they're going to be in your squad, and they're definitely going in your roster, I would say, as cards. Now we've expanded that out a bit, Quinn. The things I want to talk about, and there's 2 categories that I want to put characters that we can take with Dormammu. And the first category is characters that help Dormammu, and maybe that's give him more attack dice. Maybe that's help with his survivability, so with bodyguard or extra defense dice and those sorts of things. And then the second one is characters who you would usually, put into a roster. They've got something they can do turn 1, for example, like a charge, like a throw, but maybe don't innately have enough power to be able to do that themselves. So I'm thinking characters like a Valkyrie, where under Dark Dimension, she can double move and throw, right? Baron Zemo can do a charge round 1. So those types of
Panther
things.
Can do a pounce round 1.
Gamora can do a leap. All those kind of things that all of us can really catch your character out. I've been playing Criminal Syndicate with Shadowlands Daredevil, and actually putting in a lockjaw with an advanced R&D to give Baron Zemo and Killmonger a charge round 1. Which feels really good. Like it can be absolutely devastating.
Like any sort of superpower that works towards the character's action economy is really valuable. So, charges like we mentioned, but also pounces like I said, because they're giving you extra movement that potentially means that instead of double moving on the first round, you actually move, pounce, punching, right?
Yeah. Or move, charge, or even sometimes charge, attack, and then attack again if your opponent has moved up, which that's the sweet spot right there. If you get to double tap somebody round 1, especially with a Killmonger, that can feel really nice. But Quinn, I want us to keep in the back of our minds that sweet spot of 3 threats is. Not saying that we can't take characters that are over or under 3 threat, but you want a decent number of 3 threat characters in your rosters, don't you, to be able to try and maximize that Dark Restoration card.
Yeah, and also just to work around the fact that your leader is a massive 8 threat thing that just plonks down in the middle of the board, right?
Yeah, there's not much room for a Magneto and a Hulk in here, is there? Because it's just not going to work. So, Quinn, starting then with characters who can help Dormammu, right? Because we've already spoke about survivability, power generation. They cause him problems. So what sort of characters do we think that we could look at to try and help with that side of things? And maybe we'll just go back and forth and pick out a couple of characters each that we can add in there. So characters are going to boost him in one way or another that are doing something to him. So is there anyone in particular you think that works?
Helping out Dormammu, I think there's one character that immediately springs to mind for me, and that is going to be Hood, good old Parker Robbins.
Okay,
because Hood has an ability when he's in his normal mode specifically. I don't particularly like thinking about Demon Hood because it's always weird as to whether you're going to be in him or not. It's kind of similar for normal Hood, but at least you start the game in his mode.
Yeah.
But the ability he has is Black Arts, which costs 3, but heals a character for 3. So it's kind of like Ostra's Refuge with Strange. But the kicker is that, because Hood's a 3 threat, they get the bleed condition. What's Dormammu immune to, right?
He's immune to bleed.
There we go.
He's immune to bleed. I like that. I like that pick. And I think it's not too difficult to get 3 power onto him, purely because of the Hex Shot, right? He's got that rapid fire energy attack, which is really, really nice.
Mystic attack.
Mystic attack even, yeah, not energy. Which
I don't think there are any rapid fire energies in the game at the moment.
I don't think there are, no.
That's interesting.
There we go. But yeah, I really, really like that pick. I think it's solid, and it falls under that 3 threat category as well, which is
thematic.
Really nice. Also thematic. Well, I'm also going to stay thematic, Quinn, and I'm going to go with my mate Carl. So Baron Mordor.
I was so worried you were going to name another 3 threat, and I was going to throttle you through the screen.
So why do I like Baron Mordor? Well, I like it. I like him for the fact that he can sit back, right? He can sit back. He can hold a back point, but he can still do a lot of really cool things. Sobab. So we've already spoke about how Dormammu can dish out that Hex and that Incinerate. He can explode those, and every other enemy character within range 2 is going to get those. Is going to get those conditions, which is, for 2 power, you go into something like a Gamma. I mean, that is crazy, especially where you've got a little bit of control over where you push. He's kind of got the opposite. So he's got the ferocity of Sitarak, so he adds 2 dice to the attack. Now, there is a kicker here as well that he does suffer 1 damage, but I think, it's worth it on those turns where you maybe don't have Smash, or even a turn where you have used Smash and you want to maximize your chances of being able to get that first trigger.
Yeah, you can roll 14 dice on a Dark Miasma and still not get the trigger. Yeah. So Quinn, what about you? Have you got another character you think that works? I feel like you're going to think it's cheating. Have you figured out who I'm going to say?
I mean, I feel like this character could probably fall into both. He is both enabled by Dormammu, but also really helps Dormammu out.
Yeah, it happens to be the best dancer in the MCU. Helmet Zemo.
Star-Lord.
No.
Yeah, it's like it should be like, it should just be when we bring up the leader, it's like, and attached to the leader is Baron Zemo.
Look, it's a 3-threat Infinity Gem called Baron Zemo.
But I think in particular, Quinn, and let's talk about both aspects of Baron Zemo and why he's good. But do you want to start with with what he's doing for Dormammu?
He's a strategic genius, and he is advising Dormammu to not die so quickly by giving him rerolls.
Yeah, and that's really nice, isn't it? Yes, you've got to keep him within range 2, but that's not too much of a hassle, especially when he's got such
Zemo,
a big
especially
base.
when he's being given more power, is very good at darting in and out of conflict.
Yeah. Well, and then the flip side is obviously it turns on a character turn 1 with a long move and a charge. Like, that is really, really good. Like,
And
do
then he
not
hits someone
underestimate.
with 5 dice and an innate reroll. It's pretty damn good. If you get to double tap them, potentially he's Master Swordsman on the second one as well.
Yeah,
That could very well be a dead character.
It could be, or even, maybe not even using Master Swordsman, but maybe using that Steel Rush, right? To then dart back wherever he needs to be to get back within range 2 of him as well. So yeah, completely agree with that. I really, really like that. A character that I'm going to go for, and obviously, he fits within the 3-threat. The 3-threat side of things as well, which is nice. Character I'm going to go with, Quinn, is a character who isn't a 3-threat. She is a 2-threat, but I think
I know who this is.
I think she can also work very, very well in Dark Dimension, and that is that little ankle biter herself, Gabrielle Kinney, aka the Honey Badger.
Not the character I thought you were going for.
Yeah, so I've gone with
switcheroo on me. Okay,
I've done the old bloody switcheroo. Because
what was that?
Okoye, I don't know. Okoye is another obvious choice for a 2-threat.
The answer is it was offensive.
It may have been offensive, yeah. But why her? Well, it's ankle biter, and also then coupled with the fact that too dangerous to ignore. So ankle biter means that Dormammu is going to have more of a chance, and also your other characters are going to have more of a chance as well, because they get to roll 1 less defense die if she's in the mix. We're going to have characters that dish out Incinerate, which again is really, really nice. But then that too dangerous to ignore. The fact that she can take a hit, and having a 2-threat character that can take a hit from your 8-threat character who's quite squishy feels quite nice. Yep. She's also she's also got quite a lot of movement as well. If you get enough power on her to do a hamstring, which if she's gaining that innate 2 power every single turn, is quite easy to do. And if you are taking Little Sis Big Sis, then she is going to get that movement shenanigans as well. It also means that
any sort of character with healing factor can then get rid of the damage they potentially take from Flames of the Fall Team.
Yep. Also, if she's taking the hit, Dormammu's gaining power. Worst case scenario, she goes down, he gains the power for it. So, yeah, I think she is a solid 2-threat. She's not the 3-threat, but I do think when you've got an 8-threat leader, you do need to look at some 2-threats as well. But let's do one more each, Quinn, for characters that are gonna help him a little bit more.
So you're going with helping him a little bit more, and I was like, oh, you mentioned the Little Sis, and I was like, oh, we could do the Big Sis.
Save that one for the next one.
We're going down the route of helping him out. What could we possibly go for? I am going to throw a slight curveball out there.
Okay.
And suggest Mysterio.
Oh, okay.
Not because of anything on Mysterio's card, even though I do like Mysterio as a 3-threat. I quite like him in foes when I play them. But for the fact that he has a little tactics card, doesn't he, Rich?
He does indeed. Yes, he does.
A grand illusion.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real nice card.
It's a very nice card. For those of you that don't know, the Grand Illusion is a 4-cost tactics card that Mysterio has to pay for. And then until the end of the cleanup phase, when an enemy character makes an attack, defense, or dodge roll, so basically any kind of roll that has any import apart from flipping, while they're within 3 Mysterio, they don't add dice for rolling crits, and their crits become skulls. Now, Rich, why would that be really helpful with Dormammu?
Well, it's it means that even on their defense rolls in particular, if Dormammu slaps them, all of their crits are going to turn into failures, which means that they will turn into successes for Dormammu, which feels quite nice. Maybe on a round where you played Smash at the same time.
Perhaps round 2, when Dormammu enables Mysterio to play this.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really, really nice, and I do like that combination. And it isn't one that I'd thought of actually, Quinn. But again, it's another 3 threat that is going to do some work for him.
And also, I think there's also the fact that this works on attack rolls and dodge rolls as well, right? So it means that whilst Dormammu's dishing out more damage himself, he's also taking less in return.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It makes it so much better. So yeah, survivability as well is key. And I think, is it the character? It's the character that is doing the rolling, isn't it? So it's the enemy that is attacking and doing whatever else that's within 3 of him.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I do like that a lot. So Quinn, for my last one, I've picked what I think is a fairly obvious pick. There are other characters that will do exactly the same or a similar thing to him. There's one that's a threat down. There's a couple that are a threat up. But I think within that 3 threat category, it's Mr. Luke Cage, aka Carl Lucas or Power Man, whatever you want to call him, or Luke Cage, depending on what it is. Because I just think he's such a good character. Obviously, he's not dishing out a huge amount of damage himself, but he's not there for that. He's there to take a hit for Dormammu. So why is he good? Well, too dangerous to ignore. When an enemy character within 2 of this character targets another allied character with an attack, this character may use this superpower. This character becomes the target of the attack, regardless of the range and line of sight. It's like a reverse bodyguard in a way, isn't it? Like it's not in range of the target; it's in range of the one that's doing the actual attack.
In range of the attacker, yeah.
Which I think maybe makes it a little bit harder. But if they want to negate that, if you're up close and personal with them, it means that they either have to move or they have to do something to get you away, first of all. He's also got unbreakable skin, so he's negating damage. He's got a throw. It's only an interactive terrain feature, but it's still a throw. But he's got Sweet Christmas, right? Which it costs 4 power, but when he's getting 2 power around, that means 2 power a turn. That means that if he does nothing turn 1, he can still do a Sweet Christmas round 2, which is really nice. It's a really, really nice spender.
Like the 2 conditions on that as well are actually really nice and not often seen, I think.
Slow and stun, less so the stun, but the slow onto a character like a Ghost Rider is so good.
I mean, stun is also great onto characters like She-Hulk, for example. I remember playing a game with my double Hulk list, and my She-Hulk got stunned, and I was so sad.
Yeah. I'd also say that I would throw into the mix there is if I was taking Luke Cage, I would probably find a slot in there for Heroes for Hire, which works in a more traditional bodyguard sense, doesn't it? But with the kicker off the back end, and because he's going to get that 2 power, he can play it round 1, which is really nice. That's my last pick. But the things that I'm looking at there, Quinn, are the bodyguard-esque type things to be able to. So on to characters then, Quinn, who maybe don't do anything for Dormammu whatsoever. They could do something as well. We mentioned Zemo, who falls into both categories. And I suppose any character getting more power is good. Enable things that are maybe not enabled round 1. So I'll hand it back over to you. So what's your thoughts on a character that you can take along with you that's going to be really good running in Dark Dimension?
So I've been playing a lot of Wakanda recently. I quite like the Wakandans. Specifically, your boy T'Challa. Being in Dark Dimension means he starts the game with 2 power. You know what he can do with 2 power, Rich?
Quite a lot.
He can pounce. He can pounce. And you know what he can do after he pounces? Onto a midpoint.
Do some attacking.
He can hit someone. And then if they're size 3 or less, he shoves them off the point, which gives you very typically a VP lead early on. Yeah. Which I think is a thing that potentially Dormammu is looking for.
Yeah, and the fact that there's no trigger on that push as well. Yes, it's size 3 or less, but the fact that it doesn't need to do anything, like, it's really unusual on a builder to have a trigger that just happens. Typically it's the wild, or you have to do damage or that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice. It's really, really nice.
Panther kind of presents a threat that your opponent might have to deal with, in addition to Dormammu potentially deflecting fire that would go into the big man. And then there's the fact that, ignoring the pounce, Mantle also costs 2 and lets you reroll any number of dice on all of your attacks for the turn. So, if you're playing with Montesi formula, for example, and you want to, catch 3 people under a 6 dice beam and reroll any number of those dice, that's pretty good. I highly recommend it.
It's pretty damn good, yeah. I am going to cheat here, Quinn. I'm going to cheat. So I'm picking a 5-threat character. But I'm going with Rocket and Groot. I really, really like Rocket and Groot as a combination. Obviously, been playing a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy of late. But I think both of those characters have so much that they can spend power on that it turns them on to be able to do things round. I mean, round 1, you can get off a deadly duo, right, from Rocket and Groot. 3 basic attacks on the right setup can be absolutely devastating, especially then if you've got an action left to be able to follow it up with a Hadron Enforcer or something like that. Groot obviously just soaks up so much damage with that heal ability that he's got. But also he can dish out Root, which is really, really nice. It really, really hampers your opponent. We've spoke about how there's lots of damage that gets dished out in a Dark Dimension team, both to your opponent, but also to yourself as well. And I will still say, I believe that We Are Groot is the best unrestricted healing card in the game. 3 power to take 2 damage or remove 2 damage off every allied character within range 4, is really, really good. And it could be the difference between knowing that you're going to get to an end of a round and your character is going to be dazed because they've got too much power or something like that. Then let's not forget, things like tricks and traps booby traps on Rocket. So they've got lots of way to be able to spend power effectively. They help out the rest of their team as well. They've got a couple of really good tactics cards that they come with, and the fact that one of their really good tactics cards, Deadly Duo, gets turned on round 1. So I really like them as a potential combo for Dark Dimension. And they come in the same character pack as well. So all the cards you need come in the same character pack as well. So you're getting a lot of value from that box. And Groot's a 3-threat. And Groot's always going to be the one that dies if you set things up right, because he'll always take the hits for Rocket. So you can almost force Groot being KO'd and then have Dormammu just bring him back as well. So
yeah, and also, if you want to avoid the additional damage from Flames of the Fall Team with Rocket, you've got booby traps. Just keep that in the back of your mind and trigger it whenever you can. That can really bring down your total power. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my first pick. And I know it's a bit of a cheat, but I feel like they are a combo when it comes to sort of this setup. So
on to my second. Well, first of all, I'll start off with a question, Rich.
Okay.
You all right, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I don't even talk like that. Are you taking a Mr. Miles Gonzalo Morales?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about your boy Venom.
Oh, okay. I like where you're coming from.
Yeah. Turn 1, web snare.
That feels really nice.
Drag someone in for Dormammu to kick in the face.
Yeah.
And not only that, because there are a plethora of uses outside of turn 1. Venom is a character that uses a lot of power, right?
Yeah, with all those with the reactive abilities that he's got.
Yeah, using it to counterattack people, potentially using it to use his spender when he counterattacks people to heal. He's got a 3-cost throw that's size 3.
Yeah,
that's really good. He can web snare multiple people around as well. So sort of in a similar vein to Panther, where he has offensive capabilities, but can also really help on scenario. Because, on, say, a Gamma, for example, Venom just turning around and being like, I have 10 power on me. 5 web snares, your entire team is moved median. Bam!
Yeah, and it also means that it almost negates a little bit that short move that he's got. Because you leave him towards the back end of your activations, you hope that your opponent's moved up. You move him once, you're potentially in range to then do a web snare, to then do a symbiote tendrils as a follow-up, aren't you? So yeah, I do like that a lot. He may have a tactics card.
He does have a tactics card that for some reason is in that new box we haven't talked about yet because it's real weird.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on Friday. But
he's got Lethal Protector, which is a Venom tactics card, obviously. 2 power from Venom. When an ally within 3 would be attacked, play that card. Venom places within 1 of the ally and becomes the new target of the attack. Oh look, it's another way to bodyguard Dormammu. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it?
It's real nice, yeah.
It's really nice. So Quinn, for my second choice, maybe third if you include the fact that I cheated and picked 2,
we like to play fast and loose.
Fast and loose with these. Fast and loose. Is your girl Brunhilde. Brunhilde. So why Valkyrie? Well, first of all, I see a lot of people now that go, "Oh, Valkyrie had a nerf. She's terrible." She's not.
No, she's not.
She is still really, really good. The problem is what she can no longer do is Asgardian Might round 1, where you basically walk up to a point twice, pick up a character and yeet it and score that VP. Dragon Fang has got an extra trigger on it, as all of the flurries have in the game, or most of the flurries have in the game. But she can still dish out some damage, but also is a great control piece. It means that you can charge up turn 1 and potentially then generate enough power to, you only need to generate 2 power off an attack, or maybe even 2 attacks to do your Asgardian Might. Or if you just want to absolutely guarantee that you're going to get that point, you just double move up, spend the 3 power, and throw them off the point. It's really, really nice. She's another one that can spend power very, very easily. There's nothing reactive. That's the one thing she doesn't have. But during her turn, there are not many characters, Quinn, that can dump 10 power in a turn, and she can very, very easily. Dragon Fang, Warrior of Legend, right, becomes, that's 5 power there. Then you've got an Asgardian Might is 3 power, and then, another Dragon Fang or whatever it is. It's she's got so many ways to spend the power, and she really likes it when you give her more.
I also think that in a similar vein to, as I mentioned with Panther, she's kind of like another big distraction for your opponent.
Yeah.
People are going to have to deal with Valkyrie, and if they're dealing with Valkyrie, they're not attacking Dormammu, and if they're attacking her and dealing damage, they're powering up Dormammu in the same, activation, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's my final pick. But one thing I did want to talk about, Quinn, because we haven't covered any of them off yet. We've named, I think, one character from in there. Just being cautious of the 3-box challenge aspect of this. We've obviously got 10 characters in the core box, one of which we've we've already used in Baron Zemo. But are there any other characters, or is there a standout character from the core box that you think maybe can do something similar? But what you often find with the core boxes is that they can do similar things to other characters we mentioned, but they might not just be quite as good, or they might cost a threat more or something like that.
They might also just not quite be the right fit where someone else is. Like, it might not actually be to do with how good they are. It just might be, where they
that's
fit.
what you give up, isn't it, when you do the 3-box challenge kind of thing. So, I mean, we would typically have 3 boxes. In this case, it's going to be 5 characters that we would get, right? And if we think that we've taken two boxes, two lots of 2 character packs, and then Dormammu himself, we've already put Zemo in there. So what other 4 characters would you be looking at that could do a good job in Dark Dimension? I'll let you go first to make it easier for you.
I'll take Captain Marvel. Sort of in a similar vein to your Valkyries and your Panthers. She is a threat on the table, right?
She really
stands
is.
there.
Yeah.
She does her energy blast. She goes into binary form, and people sort of look at her and go, "Oh God, that's a lot of defensive stats, and it's doing a lot of dice against me. Help!" Right?
And that
absolutely distracts from Dormammu, which is really good. And also, actually thinking about it, she's pretty damn good at power dumping. Having got 4-cost superpower is really nice, and she's also got a 3-cost size 4 throw, which works on characters, which I really like about her.
I'm gonna go with Iron Man as my choice. I think outside of the core box, there's a particular card called Helios Laser Bombardment, which I think in particular with Dormammu and Dark Dimension can work well. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed take, but obviously in the realms of the core box, why him? Well, turn 1, homing rockets, or a Friday AI repulsor blast, which is really nice. Range 5, strength 5 with an explosion, ignoring line of sight, and meaning they don't benefit from cover. He's a great back point holder, and the fact that he's getting that 2 power every single turn means that he's going to be able to do some really, really nice stuff with it. And on the repulsor blast, he's got the push. So again, very, very similar to other characters that we spoke about, being able to push them off points, being able to control them a bit more as well is nice. And again, he's a tanky boy, right? He's got that invincible Iron Man, which he's only a 4/3/3 with 5, but he's going to be able to take a couple of hits before he goes down. So yeah, Iron Man would be my character of choice from the core box.
Yeah, I think for my next one, I'm gonna dip down in threat, and I'm gonna go for 2-threat Widow, because in sort of that 3-box challenge format, 2 threats are somewhat hard to come by. Depends on what boxes you're going for, obviously, but I mean, having an extra 2-threat can't hurt when you've got an 8-threat leader, right?
Absolutely, especially when you don't have to worry yourself with. Are they affiliated or not, that sort of thing. That's often one of the harder parts of the 3-box challenge, isn't it? Is that, we're taking characters, but then you can't take too many low threat characters because then it's harder to fill up with higher threat characters from your affiliation. But yeah, obviously he just doesn't care, which is nice. I mean, she's another great back point holder, right? Which is really good. She doesn't have a lot to spend power on. But
a mixed technique here, a counter strike there, it all adds up.
It does. And again, you don't really care if she's holding you a back point and taking a damage every turn from round 2 onwards or round 3 onwards. It's really not the end of the world, is it? On a 2-threat, it's not too bad.
No, it's pretty good.
I'm gonna go a little bit off piste here, and he's not a character that I would usually take, Quinn, outside of affiliation in any way, shape or form. But I'm gonna go with your OG Cap himself, Mr. Steve Rogers. Yes, he's 4 threat, and in this scenario in my head, he's doing a very similar job to Luke Cage. But I think one of the reasons why Steve isn't particularly great outside of Affiliation is he doesn't get the reduced cost on things like the bodyguard and the vibranium shielding and everything else. It's not the same, but it almost counters that. So it does mean that he can just walk up, he can double move and be within range 2 of Dormammu, and round 1, he can take that hit for him, which I think is, I think is quite nice. And because his 2 superpowers are reactive, he does have that ability to potentially dump power as well. And, he's got Shield Slam is not a bad spender in any way, shape or form. Strike is really nice. Ricochet on the shield thrower can be really good. So I think, is he the optimal bodyguard, in the game? Absolutely not. No, not outside of Avengers. But I think in this 3-box setup, I think he could do a really, really good job for Dark Dimension.
Yeah, I mean, also just to quickly mention, Shield Slam's a really good attack.
It's really good. It's really good. And if we are taking Captain America, Steve Rogers, and we are taking an Iron Man, we also have a really nice little card called Ricochet Blast, which, adds even more value to Iron Man and Cap, but it also comes in the core box as well, whereas the Helios, you need Hulkbuster for it, which, sort of breaks the whole point of the 3-box challenge if you've got to drop $50 on a single card. So yeah, they'd be my picks, and I think that those are probably 4 decent picks, 5 with Baron Zemo. If you were to then go and pick 2 other character packs that you wanted to, I think you've got a good mix and match there. And as I say, the nice thing about Dormammu is that you don't have to worry too much about the other characters that the characters that you're taking, or in terms of where they're from and everything, because everyone's Dark Dimension affiliated, at least when Dormammu says you are. So Quinn, that's the character side of things. Now, Tactics cards is going to be, or at least one half of it is going to be very, very dependent on who you take, right? If you're taking Captain America and Iron Man, take Ricochet Blast, right? But obviously, if you're not, there's very little value in that card. But let's look at restricted cards first of all. Obviously, we've got 5 to choose from now. Soon to be 6, I imagine. But of the restricted cards, which are the ones you're looking at for Dark Dimension?
So I think, Medpack's always the first one, right? Medpack's just real good. Spend 2, heal 3. In a similar vein, but one that's a little bit more Dark Dimension-y, Patch Up could be a really good addition, considering you have that additional power.
Yeah, it's and the fact that it is it's out of activation, isn't it? Medpack? No, is it Medpack is out of activation, or is Patch Up? I can never remember which way around.
Patch Up's out of activation, but you have to do it on someone that isn't you.
Yeah. So typically, who would be a prime candidate for a Patch Up? So yeah, and a character. You just mentioned a Black Widow there, right? Black Widow, coming off the back point, moving long, dumping her power and healing Dormammu for 5, and then getting the hell out of dodge and moving back, doesn't feel like a bad turn for and a bad activation for a Black Widow. And Patch Up comes in the core box as well, which is really nice. So I may be leaning more towards Patch Up, Quinn, than Medpack if we were gonna restrict ourselves with one healing card. I think that could be quite good. Do you see any value? I'm just going to say off the back, when Bitter Rivals is a no for these guys. You want some help, and Bitter Rivals isn't going to help you.
You don't have enough characters to make reasonable use of Bitter Rivals, I don't think.
No, not at all. But what about field dressing, and what about Brace for Impact? Are they up for consideration? Is there is there a time where you're going to field dressing Dormammu, or?
I mean, I think if I were going to pick between the two, I would heavily favour Brace.
Okay.
Just because field dressing is one of those cards that seems really good and is really good, but is also like whenever you take it in a game, you always find it's really hard to pull off. It's just like, I have this thing and it's really good, but I can't use it because reasons.
I think especially since all you've got's gone, right? When you could force when you were going to be dazed, usually after you've had an activation. Yeah, I do think brace works better. I wouldn't mind double running Medpack and Patch Up, Quinn. I think if you're looking, I think for me, Quinn, if you're running core box and you don't have access to Medpack, I would say, Patch Up and Brace, I mean, they're the only two options that you get anyway, are fine. I would probably look at swapping out Brace for Medpack and just having that double heal potential. Because I don't think he's not too susceptible to, big throws,
No, I mean, he's got what, 4 physical defense?
Physical defense. So
what, 1 to 2 blocks? I mean, also, in effect, a patch up will undo the highest amount of damage that a throw can ever do.
Yeah,
practically, unless someone's agents are smashing you, and even then, it's 1 damage if you block nothing.
Yeah, it's not hard, is it? So yeah. So
also,
I do
think
like
that
those.
Dormammu is less susceptible to being 1-rounded, right? Because he's got that field of power of darkness.
Yeah.
So he can shove people away. Typically, people only getting 1 attack into him a turn. Or if they're getting 2, one of them's got a hex on it, which, is less impactful.
Yeah,
it means you're going to have that
them quite a
window
lot,
to be able to heal him back up, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Quinn, other cards then. And obviously there's going to be some character specific ones that we're not going to run through all of them. We will put together a roster at the end of this, but are there any other, I know there's one that is an absolute must, but are there any other cards that you think are worthwhile taking? And let's get in Indomitable.
Let's just show,
Indomitable, right? For all those characters that can throw Dormammu, they can't throw him for 1 turn, so that's nice. So any of the characters that you think, or any of the cards, sorry, that you want to pick out that you think are worthwhile for consideration?
One that might seem a little bit strange in Dormammu, Advanced R&D. You can use it turn 1 to potentially give him a range 2 place, or you can use it as a way for a character who is, not the best at dumping power to be able to dump power by going, Advanced R&D, everyone else have my power, I don't want to die.
Yeah. And it also, right, it means that there are some situations where, a character goes from having 2 power a turn to 3 power, that first turn, can unlock other things as well. Which can be really, really nice. So yeah, I don't mind that at all. One card I want to throw in the mix, Disarm, I think can be quite nice. Again, it's another, obviously it's not a massive power dump. It's only a power off each character, but 2 fewer attack dice on a character that is building up some big attack into Dormammu. Again, it's another way of, just being able to negate that damage going into him. I think is quite nice. Any others, Quinn, from yourself?
I'm gonna go with a weird one. Trip Up.
Okay, I don't mind that.
Stun and Stagger's really nice to get out, and especially if you're staggering someone, that's less attacks going into Dormammu, like we keep mentioning. Also, people are, going to be less able to position themselves correctly. Stun is really, really good on a lot of characters. I mentioned She-Hulk earlier. Stunning a She-Hulk is very sad.
Yeah, definitely. Cutting off, reducing that amount of power that they get can be very, very detrimental to them. Quinn, card I want to go with, and it's in the vein of both the power dump, but also being able to really, sort of get into that double tapping situation. Follow Me. I think you do have the potential of taking somebody like a Laura who just goes apeshit and generates all the power in the world and then goes, what do I do with it? You go, well, I will dump 6 power and there you go, Dormammu, take your turn and finish people off. Or, whoever else it may be. So I quite like Follow Me. And again, it also comes in the core box as well. So Quinn, let's jump on to the crisis selection. One thing I want to talk about is on the secures. We spoke about how a lot of people don't like pay to flips because they cost a power to flip, right? Is there an argument here that we really punish our opponent and take all maybe not all, but a couple of secures that are pay to flip, because it then means that round 1, even characters that don't have a charge or a this or a that can still double move, pick up a point, pick up an extract and then move to a secure and try to flip it. Is there some value in that at all, do you think? Or
I think it's a really interesting point to raise, actually. And yeah, I do think there is like an element of that. Obviously, a lot of the time that we've been when we've been choosing characters for Dark Dimension, we've been choosing them with the goal of using that 1 extra power to do a superpower, right?
Yes.
That enables them round 1. But I do think that potentially you could take sort of a slightly more reserved stance and just be like, I'm going to flip these things and I'm going to have better power economy than you to pick up extracts in addition, right?
Yeah.
And then also potentially, I think you don't take all flips. I think you maybe take 2. Madman would be my first choice. Probably Spider Portals for the second one.
You do not want to find yourself in Sword.
No, you don't. And then also, I think as your last secure, I think Demons is just a really good one. Dormammu's immune to Incinerate. Other people getting set on fire means that they're going to be prioritized to be attacked over him, which means he's going to generate power and not be attacked himself, right?
Yeah, it is really, really nice, isn't it? And then when it comes to the extracts, then Quinn, everybody loves the hammer, right?
Everyone does love a hammer. Dormammu also likes starting with a hammer.
He really does.
Because of his big old base.
Well, and he's in on a 7 dice builder and a 9 dice spender, which
bit builder.
Builder, yeah. Which, but he's really, really nice. Any others that you think? You're looking for, you probably want to avoid the anything that's 5. You don't want to be spider infected in cubes are maybe not great.
I think it depends on how wide you can go and what you've done in terms of the number of 2 and 3s you have. Because potentially, you can just march Dormammu into their side of the board and go, I'm having your spider infected, fight me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I suppose back to that point of, one character we didn't mention, I think he's definitely worth a mention, and I think he would go in my roster, Lizard. Doesn't necessarily benefit from anything that Dormammu does, doesn't necessarily, do a lot to help Dormammu, but
he just sort of sits there and screeches at people, right? That's what Lizard does.
But he's perfect for that turn 1. Walk up, pick something up, go flip a point, and spend his 2 power, right? And do you know what? If you want to go fight him, because if you're fighting Lizard, you're not fighting Dormammu. So I think he's worth a one in there. But we look. So are we not too concerned then with the extracts? Wakanda and Herb obviously is one that we want to probably avoid. We don't really have a plan for it unless we're going to take a Nick Fury.
Yeah, and I don't think we're fitting in a Nick Fury just for that.
No.
Because that's also a tactics card slot as well. That seems like a lot of effort.
It does, yeah, it really does.
I don't mind Montesi being able to beam people with Dormammu and still get his whole skull thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's only his builder is 6 anyway, and the Montesi is 6, or is it 5? I can never remember.
It's 6, and neither of them are great at generating power.
Yeah, and you've obviously seen in that the characters that we spoke about and things, there are some 2 threats in there, and people like Lizard who they don't mind having a half decent beam attack on them either, right?
Like I mentioned with Panther, that would mantle.
Yeah.
Burn the world.
Well, and also Valkyrie is really good. Zemo.
Warrior of Legend on it. Zemo with rerolls with it. Like,
So,
I think Montesi's a really good crisis for quite a few teams, actually, that just isn't seen very often.
it's definitely not one that's seen a lot. And I think
it's because it's one of the fairer ones, and you can't really run away with it and score more points than the secure.
Yeah. I also think that that's quite nice for Dark Dimension as well. Whilst they're not going to be slow scoring VPs, they're fine on higher scoring ones. They don't really have the breadth and the control and things, are they, to be able to run away with a point. They're not going to be able to cause a 6-point swing, VP swing, turn 2 or anything daft like that, unless you get very lucky with dice. There's going to be an element of attrition to the game, isn't there? And that's why it's really hard to go through that whole pillars of MCP, because it's so difficult, because you can flip this on its head and just go a complete control list with Dormammu if you wanted to, and that extra 1 power per turn could really help. But
like potentially bringing in like Black Cat and Voodoo for that extract manipulation as well.
Absolutely. So there we go, guys. Me and Quinn are going to go away really quickly. It'll probably take us an hour of arguing, but for you guys, it'll be a matter of seconds. And we are going to put together 2 rosters. We're going to put 1 budget and one normal spend as much as you want roster. But what we're not going to do is go through them in any detail. All we're just going to do is tell you what we've gone for, because we've already gone through the reasons why we're taking things. So we'll run through those rosters. We'll build one each. Maybe I'll do the budget and you get to do the spend as much as you want, Quinn. That could be quite fun. And we'll do that. We'll come back. We'll show you the rosters. And then, we'll leave you guys be. So bear with us and we'll be right back. So Quinn, let's jump into my budget roster then, using the 3-box challenge. So obviously starting out with Dormammu, you don't have a choice. If we're doing a Dark Dimension roster, we have to buy Dormammu, so CP33. I then have, however, gone with my gut instinct of CP17, Rocket and Groot, and I am using every card that comes in that box, maybe. Maybe there's Heave-Ho comes in it, I can't remember, but Rocket, Groot, and then I'm also using Deadly Duo and We Are Groot. So I'm getting a lot of value from that box. I've then decided for my second character pack, I am going to be using CP71, so X23 and Honey Badger, and I have brought Jonathan along as well. Reason is, Quinn, it costs 2 power, which means she can leave it behind with her. So if there is a back point, she can drop it down turn 1 and then double move forward to wherever she wants to be to cause some problems. Yes, it means that she's going to lose that ankle biter or the nuisance thing that she's got, the bodyguard S type thing turn 1, but in some instances I think it could definitely be worth it. Rounding out the roster then, I have gone with Iron Man, I've gone with Captain America, I've gone with Baron Zemo, Black Widow, and I've actually gone with Dr. Octopus as my 5th choice character. Main reasons were I wanted to have another 3 threat in there. I think when you're doing a restricted roster like this, and 2 of my character packs had 2 threats in, I wanted to make sure I definitely got another 3 threat in there as an option, especially for that Dark Restoration, which, as you'll see, we have taken as well. So tactics cards then, we've gone with Patch Up, Brace for Impact, really as we discussed. Smash, which is great because it's in the core box as well. Dark Restoration, we've got We Are Groot, Deadly Duo, Ricochet Blast, Disarm, Follow Me, and then as I mentioned, Jonathan the Unstoppable. And Secures and Extracts, we have no other choice but to take these 6 from the core box because we don't have access to any of the other ones there. So that is my budget roster. Quinn, over to you to take a look at your spend as much money as you want roster.
Well, funnily enough, starting off, we've got Dormammu, who'd have thought.
Nice.
Then we've got Baron Zemo, who, we've sung his praises on basically every one of these videos we've ever made. Then we've got Domino. I really like her for having that extra power and just being able to murder things. Hood, like I said, more healing access, immunity to bleed, makes that real good with Dormammu. We've got Mysterio for Grand Illusion, spoilers. Venom for Lethal Protector, spoilers. We've got Valkyrie, we've got Okoye, we've got Rocket for Deadly Duo, we've got Groot for Deadly Duo, and We Are Groot, spoilers. Launching into tactics, funnily enough, We Are Groot, Deadly Duo, The Grand Illusion, Lethal Protector. Then we've got Smash, Dark Restoration, Advanced R&D, Climbing Gear, which is actually a really nice one, potentially to get Dormammu back into play if he's somehow been controlled out of it.
Yeah.
And then for my 2 restricteds, I took both healing cards in the form of Medpack and Patch Up. Finally, for my Secures and Extracts, I've got Demons, which I think is to be expected.
Yes.
I've got Mutant Madman, because as we said, flips are pretty good with Dormammu, because you've got that extra power. You aren't, juggling, doing a flip, or picking up an extract, which can be a real issue with some teams. And then the last one I brought in is one we didn't talk about at all, but I thought about it and went, I kind of like that. And it's Intrusions.
Oh, okay.
Because, getting Dormammu from one end of the board to the other for a power seems pretty good.
It does seem quite good. Yeah, it does seem quite good indeed. Yeah. No, I like that.
And then
I
also,
do like that.
it's dealing additional damage to people, which means that potentially We Are Groot is going to have a bigger impact because it's going to be able to heal that 2 health off of your other allies if they've been using the portals as well.
Yeah, and as I say, it's maybe that thing. If you have got We Are Groot in there, it means that you can use the portal without having to worry too much about that one damage, that little chip damage that you take. So,
and then finally, we've got my extracts. I did end up taking Mong Tessie because, as we discussed, it's quite nice to have that on Dormammu. And a lot of the other characters you're bringing don't have the best attacks in the world, so buffing them up in that regard is quite nice. Groot isn't the biggest fan of everyone having an energy beam, but, he'll learn to live with it or not. Then I took hammers, because, Dormammu can actually get 2 hammers round 1, which is really nice, because he starts on the middle one, picks it up, double moves to a wide one, picks it up. And also kind of makes him a target, because otherwise people can ignore him. I know we've spoken a lot about, people attacking him and, burning him down. But also, ignoring him is a valid strategy as well. So giving him an extract is at least something that they might have to consider focusing him for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then finally, I've taken Research Station because it stops people running away, which is a thing that I think this list is going to struggle with.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. But no, I do like those rosters. But I want to just say, Quinn, I think the real thing with Dormammu is go out there and experiment with him. There's so many different ways you can play him. I did play a lot of Doctor Strange with him early doors, and it did work in some cases, but for the most part it didn't. But if you've had success with Dormammu in other places, let us know down in the comment section below. And I think is Dark Dimension the most competitive affiliation at the moment? Absolutely not. No.
I mean, is it the kind of affiliation that you make a mono roster for as well?
That is the other.
Not.
That is the other thing I would say, Quinn, is that Dormammu, if you want to play Dormammu, here's 1 character slot and 1 character slot and 2 tactics cards. I would say Dark Restoration and Smash are the 2 that you probably want to attach to him. But he can slip very easily in as a, if you've got a 9th slot free in your roster and you're looking for a filler character and you want to mix it up a bit to be able to play different things, then yeah, slip him in there. I think he could work. I think he could work really, really well. Any particular affiliations, Quinn, you think that where he would work?
I mean, Web Warriors have been brought up quite a lot. I think they're the only time it's been really brought up competitively regarding Dark Dimension. I mean, Avengers isn't a bad one, mainly because almost everyone's an Avenger. So, shove Steve in, shove Sam in. Sam's quite good with Dormammu. He's got a turn 1 charge. He's a long mover. He can push people about. Don't
mind Guardians. I really don't mind Guardians. Because you've got Gamora in there, Nebula's a great two threat, right? Rocket and Groot, as we just discussed, and you're probably going to be taking their cards anyway. You know, so yeah, I think there's some options out there, isn't there, in terms of what you want to take. But let us know down in the comment section below, guys. Let us know what characters you've used with Dormammu. I still think, Quinn, they are an affiliation that it will only take a couple of characters to be released that are really good, but need that one extra power. And it could just, you know, again, it could flip them. It could flip Dark Dimension on their head. They're always going to struggle with the 8 threat leader thing.
I think there's also the fact that Steve just does it better for cheaper.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like that's a big hindrance for Dormammu.
Yeah, because, you know, typically you want to spend power on superpowers, not on spenders. There are some exceptions, absolutely, but you know, typically power spent on superpowers is power better spent than on spenders, isn't it? So I think
there's a reason Steve's leadership is better than Cyclops'.
Yes, infinitely better. But there we go, guys. They are our 2 rosters, and again, we wanted to do this in a different way because Dark Dimension is so unique. So we thought it would be better to give some broader things rather than just narrow it down to here are the 10 characters you should take. We've given you our examples, but as you've seen, a lot of those characters are interchangeable. Absolutely. So yeah, go away, make your own rosters, and have some fun with it. Guys,
I like how we're ending the video by telling people to go away.
Go away. Go away. Go away. No. Guys, if you've liked this video in any way, shape or form, please leave a like. It really, really does help. If you want to support our channel even further, we do have our Patreon up and running now as well. You'll find a link down in the description below. We've got the Discord. There's so many people on there now. I don't know. It's like over 450, 500.
There's at least 3 people. Yeah.
There are at least 3 people on there, 2 of which are Quinn. Yeah, go over there, check it out. It's completely free to join. It's not behind the Patreon paywall or anything like that. As all of our content is always completely free. It's never behind a Patreon paywall, but it is appreciated if you do want to help the channel out. I do have, there's a picture going up soon. I've redone my office. We're going to be having a gaming board. I've got a basic gaming board set up here, but I've got a little project involving some modular boards that I'm going to build. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we should be able to do some live battle reports as well, which I'm really, really excited to do. May mean that I need to invite Quinn round and he gets to see where I live, but I'm not too sure about that one.
Yeah, and I get to, like, you know, just gawp at all of the incredible finery that Rich has littered around his house because he's a multimillionaire. People don't know that.
Discarded Pringles packs and cherry Pepsi Max bottles just
bottles
strewn everywhere. Yeah. But guys, as always, it leaves us with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See you.